So good evening, everyone. Okay, we're going to try this one more time. So I'm Rep. Q Williams from the great city of Middletown. For those that have not gone all the way up the Merritt before, once you finish the Merritt and you take the quick right and you aim a little bit, you can go down the hill a little bit and then you'll get to one of the most romantic and beautiful main streets in all of the country. It also has some of the best food in all of the state. But if you don't get all the way down the hill, and you kind of want to swerve a little bit and you get to West Street, there's a little church called Cross Street AME Zion Church, which I am a proud member of. And when we say hello or we greet folks, we make sure that we have folks greet us back so that we know that we are all in the spirit and room together. So we're going to try this one more time. So good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you. So I know I'm not alone. Amen. It really is a pleasure and an honor to be here. As I said, I grew up in Woodbury Circle, which I did not know until I was in college that it actually was a low-income housing development, and found it because it never felt that way. It was a community of predominantly Polish Americans and Sicilian Americans, and at the time there was only about 10 black households in the entire about 400 to 500 complex. And my mom was a worker for the state of Connecticut at CVH and River Valley Services. And she did, dare I say, hide our, we could call it poverty or brokenness or what, there's a whole bunch of ways. But it never felt like we were low income when I was growing up. We were always well fed, and my mom helped take care of what I would call my brothers now. And having that safe home was a very, I think, important foundation for me to become the leader that I am. So it's always a blessing to really be able to talk about housing and education and all the intersectionality that goes with that. So I truly appreciate Dave and the team for inviting me to speak today. I would also be remiss if I was going to recognize the commissioner who's done an absolutely phenomenal job in one of the greatest crises that we will ever see in our lifetime. And I know I have several colleagues, Representative Rochelle, Representative Kennedy, and Representative Rolander, who are awesome partners. And I really can even say this in a bipartisan way in this particular case, that you have an amazing delegation down here. And I said it's really been a pleasure to work with all three of them. And they're just, I said, awesome delegates for this work. So I want to talk to everyone about what we're going to call this, the consequences of conjunctions. In particular, the word but. And I had a mentor years ago talk about this idea of what the word but really means. And what he shared was, whenever you hear the word but, only listen to the stuff that comes after the word but. Because anything beforehand is going to completely contradict what they said. So when he said the word but, he made the acronym Behold the Unadulterated Truth. Right? So I want you to remember this, Behold the Unadulterated Truth. And I want us to be able to understand the consequences. And this is going to be probably one of the more, I think, the first time publicly that I shared. And I'm not going to have all the time to share some information. I forgot to turn on my timer. So let me turn that on now so I remember to stop within 10 minutes. But the consequences are literally dire. And I want to invoke, a mother who tried to do the best for her son. And even as she loved her son, I think we as a system and we as a community weren't able to give this young, we would call man at 18 and a quarter, but I would say this young boy, the real hope and support that he needed. So I want to talk about really quickly about this, my mentee. And he wasn't my direct mentee, but I was in a mentoring program before I became an educator. I've been an educator for about 9 years now. And Joe, who is the perennial volunteer on the nonprofit boards. If you think about nonprofit boards that you're on, you know the Joe in your own community, right? Someone that's on 3, 4, 5, 6 boards, volunteers for everything, writes the checks, that sort of guy. And he gave me a call and he said, Q, I need you to call my mentee. You can talk to him differently as another young man of color. I can't talk to him as a rich white guy. He's not quite hearing me the same way. I need you to give him a call because, as Joe said, he's acting like a thug. He's not doing right. He's not doing right. I said, okay. So of course, Joe, I can do this. Let me pick up the phone and I'm going to call and I'm going to read him the riot act. So I called him up, and before I could even start to share about how frustrated I was that he had Joe who cared about him, he had me, he had multiple teachers that cared about him, he said, Q, I'm homeless, I slept outside last night. I said, oh, okay, well, we gotta figure that first, right? Because I can't help you with all the other concerns that I have if I think that you're sleeping outside. So let's figure that out first. So between Joe, the perennial and self-described rich white guy, myself as a state representative, my wife who owns a small group practice, and Justin Carbonello, who's one of the most well-known Youth Service Bureau directors in the state of Connecticut, the four of us, it took us 2 days to find our mentee housing. 2 days. And it wasn't supportive housing, it wasn't the right fit, it was an 18-year-old kid that was now going to be placed in this adult facility. And as I went to drop him off, we went in my car, and matter of fact, it might have even been this suit, this exact suit. But I put on my blue suit and usually the red tie and the fancy pin and the pocket square. So, and usually I wear the state rep pin, so you know, once again, that I'm a state rep. And as the first black state representative of Middletown's history, I take that with great pride. I take great pride just being a representative in general. As someone that has been in student government since 6th grade, the idea of being in elected office is something that I truly feel is a calling. So as I walked our mentee into that building, and I'm sorry, it was scary because I knew I was going to put them in their care. And as we walked in, and they're like, okay, follow me. I said, oh, wait a minute. Like, how does this work? How does this work? Because I know we have multiple people that care about him. And he said, if he follows the rules, he can stay. If he doesn't follow the rules, he can't stay. I said, wait a second, wait a minute. And I said, I don't mean to ask it like this, but I don't know how to ask it any other way. Do you know who I am? And I'm a little conceited sometimes and cocky, but when you're this cute and you smile about it, sometimes you can get away with it. And she goes, no. I said, well, I want you to look out the window, and across the street is our River Valley Services. And if you look at that exact window, that will peek into the Williams Wing, which is named after my mom, who worked for 30 plus years at River Valley Services and gave amazing service to the state of Connecticut. And River Valley Services is situated right in my district, the 100 district, the district that I represent, and I'm Representative Q. Williams. So I just want to make sure, as you know, that I'm putting this young boy in your care. I want to make sure that you also know that we have multiple people that are here to help him and support you as you were supporting him. So we need to know how I need to know how I can help you help him. And she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, no, I understand. Because matter of fact, I forgot to mention, as I'm dropping him off, there's the food delivery was being brought in, and I could see that there was another emergency happening behind her. And this was a social worker that was vastly underpaid for that sort of work. And we also have to talk about how we often try to fight inequities, but we perpetuate our own inequities in a lot of the systems that we do. So I truly understand why she was as stressed as she was, and why she was so quick to say that. But it still hurts every time I think about what that experience was like, even as someone that was as empowered as I am. Well, needless to say, about a week or so later, probably like a week or two later, it wasn't a right fit. And he did unconscionable acts to the workers and staff and got kicked out. But in some ways, I can't blame him because he didn't have his meds, he wasn't having social work, he wasn't having therapy. So there was none of the foundation that it would have taken for him to be successful in that environment anyway. And so now he's homeless again, and we're trying to figure it out. And he's at the hotel, and we're kind of in the middle of COVID, essentially. And the last time I got to talk to him was about essentially ordering him pizza. Because he's like, I don't know how to eat. I just need to. So I ordered him pizza, and we're trying to figure it out. And that was really the last time I got to talk to him. So then a few days later, matter of fact, I don't think it was about 2 or 3 days later, I'm in my office at the Capitol, and I get a call from my best friend. I typically call her my sister, who actually got me into the mentoring program in the first place. And she goes, I just want to let you know about our mentee. He's in the custody of the police. He, let me not mince words, he killed his mom. He killed his mom. And I share that because I think about there were so many opportunities where I feel like if just minor things had happened, we wouldn't be in this place where I have to share about the death of this woman that I still feel greatly responsible for. If we had simply gotten this boy the bus when he was a freshman in high school, when he broke his leg, and he was a little bit over a mile away, would he have been truant and then not gone to school and not been able to read and not wanted to finish his credits? Just a simple bus, less than a mile away. Would we be in this space? If the social worker that ran, or at least not even ran, that welcomed him, if she was paid more fairly and we had fully funded that facility, could he have got his meds and could he have gotten the social work and the therapy from the very beginning? And I even think about once again that 211 call of being there for over an hour. And still, even after being on that phone for over an hour, it's still them saying, we don't have space for this young kid. And 2 days later, after once again constantly invoking the title of state representative, that's when we finally were able to find him a space that wasn't even the right fit. If we made these changes, right, could things be a little different? And I was saying I have to live with that each and every day. And it's so even as a housing chair, it said it becomes really difficult knowing how important it was for me to have a home that my mom provided, and knowing the sort of love and care that my mom gave to me, that not everyone has that. So I want us to think about the personal is political, and I teach that to my students. Matter of fact, it's going to be what I teach them on Monday. I'm a professor, adjunct professor at University of Harvard, and on Monday we're going to do our section on womenism, feminism, and intersectionality. And we talk about the personal is political, as in the policies that we work have a personal consequence, right? So when we make a policy, there's like a John or a Susan or a Matt or a mentee that it's going to affect, or his mom that's going to affect. So I want us to go back to that idea of when I talked about the but, to behold the unadulterated truth, right? And you're going to hear a lot about a lot of the policies for housing. And I said, I've already gave them the kudos for how awesome your delegation is. And I want us to think about that word, behold the unadulterated truth. And I want to invoke one more state representative, Representative Linehan from Cheshire, who was one of the main leaders in was Tristan's Law. And essentially, Tristan's Law puts the stop signs on the ice cream trucks after a tragedy in front of a birthday party. And what she said was, if it affects one student or one kid, we have to do something different. So I've already told you about the one kid that I'm thinking about as I make policies. So I want us to remember, every time you hear the word but in terms of housing, just remember that it's really about beholding the unadulterated truth. So I want you to think about when you hear about 830G. And 830G, and you're going to hear, oh, 830G would be good, but, and they're going to give the long laundry list of things. And I will say this for all of our first selectmen and mayor in the room, that what 830G really is, because there's no such thing as an 830G development. What it really is just, it is a breakdown of communication and is a breakdown of negotiation from our cities and our developers. That's the only time 830G is ever used, because it's expensive, it is timely, and it's a pain in the butt. I'm saying it nicely because we have the young kid in the front. But no developer wants to use 830G. It is that cumbersome. So if you hear someone say, it would be good, but it doesn't give power to the local municipalities, it takes power away from them, what we're really saying is we really don't want housing. So just think about that. When you hear that, we know we need to look at our planning and zoning codes, and we have to probably look at exclusionary zoning. And the first thing you'll hear is, that would be really good. We could do inclusionary zoning, but here comes a laundry list of things. When you think about organizations like some of the housing authorities that we have in Connecticut, like the one we have in Middletown, the New Haven one, the East Hampton one, the New Canaan one, that actually has the capacity to grow and build more housing developments that we need right now for all budgets. We need it for grandma that wants to downsize. We need it for the student that graduated from UConn or from Quinnipiac or from Sacred Heart or from Yale that wants to stay. For the family of four, that is our LPNs and nurse practitioners and paralegals that are just trying to find a place that can fit their budget. We need it for every single budget and wallet in this state. And you'll hear all the reasons why we can't. So when you think about when you have these housing authorities that could expand, so just something as simple as Middletown could go to Cromwell, or Middletown could go to Portland, or maybe Derby could go to Ansonia. Just one town over. Now, mind you, I don't know the difference between Ansonia and Derby. I'm from Middletown. But if they could, right? If they had the capacity to do so, and I know I'm over my time, so I'm gonna go a little bit quicker in a moment, I promise you. I want you to, when you hear the word but, I want you to chuckle. First, I want you to chuckle, then I want you to be compassionate. I want you to give the sort of compassion that I would have hoped that would have given my mentee, that is now is what's going to, and the sort of compassion that I want to give to his mom. I want you to remember that word but, because we're going to have to empower my fellow colleagues to be able to make the right decisions. When you hear about the rent commissions and why we need rent commissions right now, and we have the law already passed, the only thing that our municipalities have to do is implement them, which would give a voice for those that are renting right now to have a fair chance at having a reasonable rent and be protected from outrageous rent increases as we've just gotten through COVID right now. So if you are a first selectman and the mayor and you have not started your process for rent commissions, I want us all to remember that word but, the behold the unadulterated truth. We could do the rent commissions but, and the list goes on and on. The list goes on and on. The accessory dwellings, the child care in homes, the perpetual eviction records that we keep as for state records if you have an eviction. That makes it almost impossible to get a home afterwards. If we keep all those things on, which makes it incredibly difficult to get a home, I just want you to remember that word, behold the unadulterated truth, the word but. And I want you to think about the consequences of conjunctions the entire time. And usually I would stay a long time. I do apologize. I do have to get on the Zoom with the NAACP to talk about education, which is another thing that I would talk about. So usually I would stay and take more questions. But I appreciate the time that I've been given today. And I said, and I really, what this really is not just it's not a call for just concern. It's not a call for just compassion. It really is a call to action. I'm going to need this room because I can see that there are numerous powerful people in this room to be able to give power to folks like Representative Rochelle and give power to Representative Olander and give power to Representative Kennedy to say, I know you can make the right decisions. I know we can get rid of exclusionary zoning. I know we can expand the housing authorities. I know we can do the rent commissions. I know we can put more money in for developing housing. I know you can do it. That's why we sent you up there. You have been this powerful and this strong. You came to this dinner and had really good chicken and salmon with us today. And now I need you to make the hard votes. Because I don't think they're hard votes, because the fact of the matter is we don't have enough housing stock in the state of Connecticut, period. We just don't. So I'm calling on you to, when they say that they've heard the folks that say all the reasons that said but, I need you all to be the reasons that remind them about what the real consequences are. So I appreciate you and giving this time, and I do apologize for taking too much time, but this is this moment that we are going to start to make the change in Connecticut for housing policy right here, and I appreciate that time. Thank you.